It's a Saturday afternoon at the Tech Museum of Innovation in downtown San Jose. Middle school students are being mentored by volunteers from the tech community. Over in the corner, an introduction to soldering class is being taught by a local legend of electrical engineering.
I was always interested in how things work, taking them apart and putting them back together.
Pieces of Alan Alcorn's work can be found in the wallets of 200 million Americans, in the cars of 40 million. And in the early 1970s, his hand started the video game revolution by inventing the first video arcade game sensation, Pong.
It was fun playing people Pong in the beginning because I was the best Pong player in the world for a while.
Alan's start in electronics began when he was the same age as the kids he's helping today. He sent away for electronics kits and correspondence courses from RCA, and he began to explore how things work. Al's neighbor owned a TV repair shop down the street, and Al began to spend his afternoons there. By the time he graduated from Lowell High School, he was already a journeyman TV repairman. After graduation, Alan's TV skills led him to a job at Ampex.
And I met some of the people that invented videotape recording and learned a lot about the real world of engineering and all the little bureaucratic processes that are necessary to make something that you can produce and replicate more than one of.
He also made a friend at Ampex, Nolan Bushnell. Nolan left Ampex to get into coin-operated gaming. Soon he inquired if Alan was interested in becoming employee number 3 at a still fledgling company, Atari.
Our parents were not totally pleased quitting a good job at Ampex to go off and start a crazy company making video games, something that didn't exist. He offered me $1,000 a month salary and 10% of the stock, and I figured the stock would be worthless. And $1,000 a month was less than I was making at Ampex, but hey, it could be a flyer. Worst could happen, it would go out of business, and I go back to work at Ampex.
Atari had released one game already, 1971's Computer Space. Nolan Bushnell wanted a game that was the opposite of the garish pinball graphics, something so simple that any drunk at a bar could immediately understand it and start putting money into it. But Nolan wasn't talking about the original Pong unit that now sits in the Computer History Museum. Table tennis was just a project to get Alan's engineering up to speed. Alan worked for 3 months on Pong, not knowing it was just a test. But when the game was completed, something very funny happened. People were mesmerized by 2 lines and a square.
And I remember taking it home to my mother's house in San Francisco for Christmas. And my brother had 2 children, 2 young boys, and they got to play it at Christmas. The first kids that ever played Pong. And I remember Uncle Freddie looked at us, it'll never sell, it'll never sell. I didn't know if it would or not. Why should it,
A TV that was purchased for $75 at Walgreens was placed into a hardware store sheet metal box and then into a simple plywood chassis. A coin slot from a washing machine was screwed into the side. And to collect the coins, a kitchen bread pan. The first Pong was plugged in at Andy Capp's Tavern on El Camino in Sunnyvale. But after only 2 weeks, the game stopped working. Alan investigated and found the cause was an electrical short across the circuit board, because the bread pan was overflowing with quarters.
There were 3 or 4 of us in an office, and all of a sudden, within 3 months, we create this thing called Pong, which is going to be the hit of the year, right? And we had no manufacturing capacity. We had no we were just 3 guys in a small office on Scott Boulevard over here in Santa Clara. And so we were just swamped. This success, I couldn't work on the next product because all I was trying to do was get Pongs out.
Atari hired some technicians, including a recent graduate named Steve Jobs, and ramped up production. The company was trying to keep up with demand and trying to stay ahead of the Pong clones that were coming onto the market. But the real revolution was Atari's decision to create a home version of Pong. Alan went to work creating a consumer video game console.
In 1976, 77, the consumer business got to be huge for Atari. And when you're in a business like that, you need lots of capital to finance inventory and construction. And so at this point, we needed outside money. We looked about going public, various ideas, and eventually we came to the deal, which was Warner Communications purchased us for a vast sum at the time of $30 million.
The new East Coast corporate culture was a shock to the Silicon Valley crazies. Nolan Bushnell left the company. Allen became a manager, but it wasn't his cup of tea. He developed a holographic gaming system called Cosmos, but Warner decided not to release it. That was the signal to Allen that it was time to move on. Time to try to change the world again.
I really loved Atari. Atari was my baby, even though it was like 2,000 employees at the time.
Next up came the Catalyst Company, which was developed as an incubator for tech entrepreneurs. And here's where Allen's story gets interesting. The technology from the abandoned holograph game Cosmos, it was embedded into your Visa card. Display technology from asteroids, adapted by a company called ETAC, and used in the world's first working in-car navigation system. In the 90s, the Advanced Technology Division of Apple Computers brought Allen on board for a research project.
And we happened to put together an amazing team of people and had this wonderful little project that was involved with how do we put digital video in the computer as a data type, so you could send movies and pictures and stuff of yourself to other people.
The research was part of the global effort that developed the first MPEG standard for digital video. Allen worked with the French manufacturer Thomson to create the first MPEG video decoder chip.
The first MPEG decoder chip wound up in a Hughes satellite. I think it's something they call DirecTV now.
The generation of kids that grew up with the Atari system was now in the Silicon Valley workforce. Allen became a bit of a living legend in the Valley. He's a hero in video game development, asked to appear at conventions and to give advice to students. But he hasn't retired just yet. And Allen still has time to give back to the community.
I've been very fortunate just to be in the right place at the right time. I graduated from high school in San Francisco. I happened to go to a great high school, Lowell. I happened to be a great football player, which happened to get me onto the Cal Berkeley campus right in the middle of the 60s and all that revolution. And then I happened to get my first job out of college at Ampex. And then Nolan asked me to help start this company called Atari. So I've been very, very fortunate to be in the right place. I mean, being in Silicon Valley. If I had grown up in Cleveland, it probably would never have happened. The opportunity wouldn't have been there. So, luck is a great part of it, and I'll take my share of it.